What's going on, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day. We are playing some Dragonheir Silent Gods. This is a sponsored video, so huge shout out to Dragonheir for sponsoring the video. If you'd like to try the game, you can download using the link in my description as well as the pinned comment. There's also a promo code for you to enter as well, so make sure you get it in while it is still good. The game is available on Windows as well as Mac. You can get it on Epic and Steam players as well as iOS and Android mobile platforms, so everybody gets an opportunity to play this game. They've got a new season, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this one. We're going to be going over all of the new dungeon boss mechanics and how they've changed from season 2 to season 3. As you know, if you played season 2, the bosses changed from season 1, so we have some new mechanics to discuss. But first, let me just briefly talk about some of the new things that are coming as well. So we've got 31 new champions in the game. There's going to be exclusive summoning pool for those champions. We have the 4 foreign summons, as well as new elemental affinities for champions. So Radiance and Fire is together, Poison and Ice is together, and Necrosis and Lightning is together. We've got new bosses, new Fey Meander bosses, and new dungeon boss mechanics, as I said earlier, because that's what we're going to be discussing today. We have new equipment and artifacts, so we've got new sets and new artifacts, new exclusive artifacts, and a ton of good sets, including One Piece mythical sets, which I feel like are extremely important as an addition that they're making to the game, seeing as though majority of the sets are 3-piece sets. I feel like it's amazing that they finally added a 1-piece set. It's much needed for sure. There's also going to be some exclusive events for season 3. So we have the event to fuse Aladia, which will be starting in April. There's also going to be an Easter event and a half anniversary celebration event. Also a new Dungeons and Dragons collaboration. We're not exactly sure who the champ is, but if you have any idea of a champ that you might want to see for that, let me know down in the comments below. But let's go ahead and look at all of the new boss mechanics. So we've got Frost Domain, Tempest Domain, Flame Domain, Grave of Venom, Grave of Curse, Grave of Rot. I did not look at Heretical Runes and Ancient Battlefield, so I will have to look at that. But let's talk about Venom, Curse, and Rot really quickly. So if we go to the Grave of Curse, as we know, the Grave of Curse is going to gain a shield and deal some massive damage to us, right? So let's look at the boss's kit and see how it has changed. So the passive, of course, is the same. This first attack, the monster dispels all its debuffs and obtains a 30% attack up and 30% damage up. So this is different from season 2, because in season 2 you were able to put up block buffs before the boss used his first skill, and you could block these buffs. But now it seems that you absolutely need someone to steal the buffs, because you can't block them. He is going to cleanse himself before he puts up his buffs. He also dispels a shield here, which I think is still from season 2. In season 2 he also dispels the shield. The ultimate ability is the exact same. So those are the changes from Grave of Curse. It doesn't make it impossible, doesn't really make it much more difficult, as long as you have a champion that can steal buffs and they have decent skill haste, they have decent recharge time. You should be able to steal these buffs. You have a full 12 seconds, so maybe 1 or 2 champs can get it done easily. I would say 1 champ. When I tested it with Varesh, it was pretty solid. The next dungeon we're going to look at is going to be the Grave of Venom. So let's go ahead and go to the Grave of Venom and let's see how it changed. At stage 9, I think most of this is the same here. The difference is with the ultimate skill. So if we read the ultimate skill, it says dashes to the current target's location and performs a triple kick, each dealing poison damage and triggering Flame of Element poison simultaneous attack. If the monster has less than 2 debuffs when casting this skill, the target will be changed to a random enemy. So essentially, for Grave of Venom in season 3, you need to make sure that you have at least 2 debuffs up before the boss uses the ultimate skill, and nothing changes, right? in season 2, we didn't have this mechanic. You didn't have to have a number of debuffs up. And I feel like people are going to have at least decrease attack up, or attack penalty up, and possibly another debuff. You might have a defense penalty if you're using the crown or witch's remains. You might have accuracy penalty depending on the champions you're using. You might have some poisons up, but I highly doubt it. 2 debuffs before the boss uses his ultimate ability is pretty manageable for sure. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next grave, which is going to be the Grave of Rot. So let's go and check out what is new with the Grave of Rot. There's not like too many major changes with these bosses. So let's see here. Deals poison damage to all enemies, inflicting healing prohibition and 5 stacks of poison. That is definitely the same. Centers on the current enemy and deals poison damage to enemies within range, inflicting recharge speed penalty. Okay, I think that's the same as well. Devours the current target, dispels all buffs from them if they are inflicted with debuffs. Then choose them for 4 seconds. During this period, deals poison damage once every 1 second, and the monster gains HP equal to 600% of the damage dealt. I feel like that is the same. He dispels the buffs, right? So normally on season 2, you didn't have to worry about your buffs at all. So essentially now you absolutely have to have some buffs on your tank and some resist on your tank, because otherwise he is going to move your buffs, will strip your buffs off of you if you are debuffed, right? If you build enough resist, you will not get debuffed. Or if you're using a self-cleansing tank, or your cleansers just have a decent rotation, you have the skill timing down, you won't have to worry about this. But pretty much he's going to devour and dispel the buffs, which you don't want, because then your tank starts to die much quicker. So that's the only change there with the Grave of Rot. Let's go and look at the domains and see how they have changed, if at all. So I guess we start with Frost since it is on top. And let's go and take a look at the boss's kit and just see how these things have changed. So at level 5, obviously you can see I have not done it yet on here. This is the test server. Deals cold damage to all enemies, inflicts attack penalty 1. So that used to be a stun on this skill as well. There's no stun here anymore. There's a stun on this one too. There's no stun on the ultimate ability anymore. It looks like the second skill is definitely the same. But the boss has a new passive. So let's read this. If the monster possesses no debuffs, the debuffs and control inflicted by it will ignore the target's resist. Damage dealt will additionally reduce the target's max HP. The amount of reduction is equal to 10% of the current damage dealt, which can be up to 50% of the original max HP at most for a single target. So basically, control is going to ignore resist, but the only control that I'm seeing here is entangled on this second, battle skill. There's no other control anymore. So they removed the stun. So it seems like it's going to be a bit easier, because if you have a control immunity champ, you can easily get by, this entangled. So Frost Domain seems a bit easier if it wasn't already easy enough. That domain is pretty much just like a race against the clock with damage and getting past the shield. Let's look at the Tempest Domain and see how things have changed. So Tempest Domain, generally one of the easier domains. Right now, it's looking like he's not placing Electrocuted anymore. So he's not going to place Electrocuted on you here. In season 2, he was placing Electrocuted pretty much at the start of the fight. But it looks like he has a new ultimate ability. So it says Bone Dragon soars to the sky, calling baby dragons for help. This is all the same here. Deals lightning damage to all enemies and killing the baby dragons when he comes back. For each baby dragon killed, 1 stack of recovery over time. This is the same. The current damage dealt by this skill will be increased by 30% in the meanwhile. This is new down here. The baby dragon has 3 stacks of damage reduction in the beginning. 1 stack of the state will be removed, and 35% HP will be lost every time it is inflicted with control. So basically, when he summons these baby dragons, you need to have some champion with control, whether that be fear, silence, any of the control mechanics, frozen. You need to hit them with some control 3 times. So I'm feeling like a champion like Zarloth would be great here. They do get damage reduction, which is very annoying. Becomes very difficult to kill anyone that has damage reduction on. So you're definitely going to have to bring some control element in here to clear Tempest domain. Doesn't probably change much. These domains are generally pretty easy. Let's go ahead and take a look at Flame domain, and let's see what changes we have for Flame domain. Flame domain is one of the more difficult ones because you have to level up cleansers and just be careful in there, because man, that burn damage is crazy, especially starting out. I generally, Flame domain is usually the second to last as far as the domains that I push, like in the first day or so. But let's see what has changed with the Flame domain. It looks like all of this is pretty much the same here. So the passive now, the boss has this blast thing that's going on. When dealing damage to enemies under burn, every stack of burn on them will increase the current damage by 30%. When inflicting burn on enemies with less than 2 buffs, this inflicted state will increase by 2 stacks and it cannot be resisted. Meanwhile, triggers 2 times of blast, right? So dispels 1 stack of blast and triggers AoE damage dealt by burn once. So kind of a new mechanic there, which is gonna suck. It's gonna make it a bit more difficult. Basically, you need to be cleansing or have like block debuffs or something like that to help you out, as if, you know, the boss wasn't doing enough damage already. So that's the change there. All right, let's take a look at Ancient Battlefield and Heretical Ruins. We'll look at Heretical Ruins first to see how they have changed at all. 2 other very important dungeons. So it's stage 9. So it looks like on this first skill, we're going to be getting attack penalty now, as well as the burn. On this skill as well, attack penalty as well as burn. And then here, we have damage reduction to the small phoenix eggs. If at least 1 phoenix egg is reborn, gains invisibility for 12 seconds. That's normal. If no phoenix egg is reborn, gains damage reduction for 12 seconds instead. So now getting damage reduction as well. This is normal, just burns. And then they removed one of the passives. There used to be another passive as well. That said, for every dead phoenix on the field, he takes 40% less damage, and whenever a dead phoenix dies, takes 15% max HP damage. So you don't get that burst of damage anymore when you kill one of the phoenixes, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult. Should still be pretty manageable. This isn't the hardest of the 2 where you get your ruins. So let's go to Ancient Battlefield, because Ancient Battlefield is significantly more different, more difficult than Heretical Ruins. Heretical Ruins is very similar to like Grave of Venom for me. It's generally a bit easier to like slap in some champs and get it done, right? The right combination of champs, that is. Now, as far as Ancient Battlefield goes, all of these skills are the exact same. So it has the exact same mechanics, but they've added some mechanics to the passive. So these 2 passives here are the exact same, but on this first one, he can switch between shield form and sword form to gain different skill effects. Basic attacks deal necrotic damage to all enemies and converts 80% of the damage dealt into a shield. So he's going to be getting a shield. So now you probably want somebody to remove that shield or steal the shield for you here, in addition to not having buffs on your team. Going to be interesting. Going to be interesting for sure, but you could bring someone in to remove that shield, or I mean, you don't want buffs, so you can't do a whole lot of damage mitigation other than having a shield yourself, because the more buffs you bring, the more stacks of total damage that he is going to gain. So you don't really want buffs, but you can bring a shield, and I would suggest bringing in someone who can remove shields from the boss, because he is going to get a shield. That is all though for changes to dungeons. Some significant changes in there. Do I think they're gonna make a huge difference? Not likely. I didn't feel the effects of the changes much for season 2 mechanics that changed from season 1. So maybe in season 3, we'll be fine, especially in the domains. You kind of go in and run domains and don't even think about if the mechanics have changed too much. Well, I didn't think about it too much, but we may feel the effects of it depending on how your account looks. I know my main account is pretty solid at this point. I have a decent amount of champs that I can use pretty much everywhere. We can clear everything in the game, so we'll see how it goes. But that's going to be all for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, be sure to check out the game. You can download using the link in my description as well as the pinned comment. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, be good and be well.